Captain Jake Martinez walked slowly across the bridge of his ship. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Outside the big window in front of him, space looked different than it had for months. The stars were getting fewer and fewer. They looked like tiny dots of light scattered across black paper. Jake stopped and put his hands behind his back. He had been the captain of the USS Horizon for 3 years now. This was the longest trip he had ever taken. They had been traveling for 18 months to reach this place. The place that everyone called the Edge. "Captain," said a voice behind him. Jake turned around to see Lisa Bell walking toward him. She was his science officer and one of the smartest people he knew. Lisa had short brown hair and always wore her uniform perfectly neat. She was holding a small computer pad in her hands. "What is it, Lisa?" Jake asked. "Sir, we are getting close to the Edge. My computers are showing that we should reach it in about 6 hours," Lisa said. She looked at her pad again and frowned. "But there is something strange." Jake raised his eyebrows. "Strange how?" "Well, the Edge is supposed to be empty space. No stars, no planets, nothing at all. But my sensors are picking up something out there," Lisa explained. She handed him the pad so he could see the numbers on the screen. Jake looked at the pad, but the numbers did not mean much to him. That was why he had Lisa. "What kind of something?" "Energy, sir. Lots of it. More energy than I have ever seen from one place," Lisa said. She pointed to one of the numbers on the screen. "This reading is higher than what we would get from 10 Federation battleships all together." Paul Davis heard their conversation from across the bridge. Paul was the chief engineer. He was a big man with rough hands from working with machines. His whole life. He walked over to them. "Did someone say energy readings?" Paul asked. "Because I am seeing some crazy stuff on my screens too." Jake handed the pad back to Lisa. "Show me what you both are seeing." Paul led them to his station. The screen showed lines and graphs that moved up and down. Paul pointed to one line that was much higher than the others. "See this? This is power output. Whatever is out there is putting out more electricity than our whole ship uses in a year. And it is doing it every second." Lisa checked her pad again. "The readings are getting stronger as we get closer. Whatever it is big. Really big." Jake felt a strange feeling in his stomach. They were supposed to be the first humans to reach the Edge. The other races in the Federation had been there before, but they always came back and said there was nothing to see. Just empty space. But now his crew was finding something that should not be there. "Amy, come over here," Jake called to Dr. Amy Foster. She was the ship's doctor who studied alien life. Amy was young and always excited about new discoveries. She had blonde hair that she kept in a ponytail and green eyes that seemed to see everything. Amy walked over quickly. "Yes, Captain? Take a look at these readings. Have you ever seen anything like this before?" Jake asked. Amy studied the screens for a minute. She was quiet while she thought. "No, sir, but the energy pattern is strange. It almost looks like it has a rhythm to it, like a heartbeat." Dan Phillips looked up from his station across the bridge. Don handled all the ship's communications. He was thin and wore glasses that made his eyes look bigger. "Captain, should I try to contact Earth? This seems like something they should know about." Jake thought about it. Earth was very far away. It would take months for a message to reach them and months more to get an answer back. "Not yet, Don. Let's see what we are dealing with first." The hours passed slowly. Jake ordered his crew to be extra careful as they got closer to whatever was waiting for them. Lisa kept giving updates about the energy readings. They kept getting stronger and stronger. Tony Garcia was the ship's navigator. He was responsible for making sure they went to the right places. Tony had been checking and double-checking their position. "Captain, we are definitely at the coordinates for the Edge, but there is definitely something here." Jake stood up from his captain's chair. Put it on the main screen. The big window in front of them changed to show what their cameras were seeing. At first, it looked like more empty space. Then as they got closer, they began to see something that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. It was huge. Bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. It looked like a giant building floating in space, but it was made of materials that seemed to glow with their own light. The surface was covered with patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Lines and shapes that seemed to move even though they were standing still. "My God," Amy whispered. "It has to be the size of a moon." Lisa was reading her instruments as fast as she could. "Captain, it is definitely artificial. Someone built this thing. And it is old. Really, really old." Paul was staring at the screens with his mouth open. "The technology to build something like this ... We do not have anything close to it. I do not think anyone in the Federation does." As they watched, parts of the giant structure began to move. Panels slid open like doors. An opening appeared that looked exactly the right size for their ship to fly into. "Captain," Dan said in a shaky voice, "I am getting a signal." "From where?" Jake asked. "From that thing, and Sir ... It is in English. Perfect English." The voice that came through their speakers was unlike anything they had ever heard. It sounded like music and wind and water, all at the same time. It was beautiful and scary. "Welcome, children of Earth," the voice said. "We have been waiting for you to arrive." Jake looked around at his crew. Everyone was staring at him, waiting for him to decide what to do. He had brought them all this way to explore the unknown. Now the unknown was inviting them inside. "Dan, respond to the signal," Jake said finally. "Tell them we are Captain Martinez and crew of the Earthship Horizon. Ask them who they are." The voice came back immediately. "We are the Guardians. We have been waiting a very long time for your species to reach us. Please, come inside. There is much to show you and little time to do it." Jake made the decision that would change everything for humanity. "Paul, take us in, slowly." As the USS Horizon flew toward the opening in the giant structure, Jake wondered what they would find inside. He also wondered if they would ever see Earth again. The USS Horizon moved slowly into the opening of the giant structure. Jake Martinez felt his heart beating fast as they entered. The walls around them glowed with soft blue light. The opening was so big that their ship looked like a small toy. Inside it, "Paul, stop the engines," Jake ordered. "Let's see what happens." The ship came to a gentle stop. Outside the windows, they could see the walls moving. Metal panels slid apart and came together in new patterns. It was like the structure was alive and thinking. "Captain," Lisa Bell said from her station, "the air outside is good for humans. We can breathe it. The temperature is perfect, too. It is like this place was made for us." Amy Foster was looking at her medical scanner. "Sir, I am getting strange readings. There is life here, but not like anything I have seen before. The signals are very weak and very different." Jake made his decision. "Get the away team ready. Lisa, Amy, Paul, Dan, and Tony will come with me. Kate, you are in charge of the ship while we are gone." Dr. Kate Murphy was the ship's doctor. She was an older woman with gray hair who had seen many strange things in space. "Be careful, Captain. We do not know what is waiting for you in there." Jake and his team put on their spacesuits just in case. They walked to the airlock and opened the door. A ramp came down from their ship to a floor that seemed to be made of smooth stone. They stepped outside and looked around. The inside of the structure was even more amazing than the outside. The walls were covered with moving pictures that showed stars and planets and numbers that hurt to look at. The ceiling was so high they could not see it in the dim blue light. "This "Way," came the voice they had heard before. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Follow the lights." Small lights appeared on the floor in front of them. They formed a path leading deeper into the structure. Jake led his team forward. Their boots made no sound on the smooth floor dot as they walked. The walls around them changed. The moving pictures became different. They showed maps of space that were bigger than any map they had ever seen. Some showed galaxies that looked familiar. Others showed galaxies they had never seen before. "Look at this," Tony Garcia whispered. He was pointing at one of the wall pictures. "This looks like our galaxy, but it is much bigger than we thought." Lisa was recording everything with her scanner. "These maps show parts of space that are not on any Federation charts. If this is real, the galaxy is 10 times bigger than we." No. They walked for what felt like hours, but their watches said it had only been 20 minutes. Finally, they came to a huge round room. The ceiling went up so high, it disappeared in darkness. In the center of the room were things that made them all stop and stare. They looked like people, but they were made of light instead of flesh and blood. They were tall and thin, and they moved like they were floating instead of walking. There were 5 of them standing in a circle around a bright white light in the center of the room. "Welcome," said the voice again. One of the light beings moved toward them. "We are the Guardians. We have been waiting for your kind to find us." Amy stepped forward. She had always been good at talking to new alien species. "We are humans from a planet Earth. I am Dr. Amy Foster. Who are you? What is this place?" The light being came closer to Amy. Suddenly, Amy's eyes went wide and she stepped back. "Captain," she said in a shaky voice, "it is talking to me. In my head, I can hear its thoughts." Jake moved to stand next to Amy. "What is it saying?" Amy listened to something only she could hear. Her face changed as she heard the words. "It says its name is Keeper. This place is a station they built 10 million years ago. They are the last ones left from a race called the Predecessors." Paul Davis was looking around at all the technology in the room. 10 million years? This place is older than humans have existed. Amy continued to listen and translate. Keeper says they built this place as a test. Every intelligent species eventually reaches the edge of known space. Most of them turn around and go home. Some try to take Guardian technology by force, but very few pass the test. "What test?" Jake asked. Amy was quiet for a minute while she listened. "The test is about what a species does when they find something more powerful than they are. Most species want to take the power for themselves. Others get scared and run away, but a few species ask the right questions." Ann Phillips was recording everything with his equipment. "What are the right questions?" The Keeper moved closer to Amy. She listened again and then spoke. "The right questions are not about what you can take. They are about what you can give, what you can protect, what you are willing to sacrifice for others." Lisa was studying her scanner readings. "Amy, ask them about the energy we detected. What is powering this place?" Amy asked and listened to the answer. Her face went pale. "They say they are the power source. They gave up their physical bodies to become pure energy. They did it to protect something." "Protect what?" Jake asked. The room around them suddenly changed. The walls became transparent, and they could see outside into space. But what they saw was not the empty space they expected. There were stars everywhere, planets with cities on them, ships moving between the stars. It looked like there were millions of civilizations out there. "This is the real galaxy," Amy translated as Keeper spoke to her. "What your Federation knows is less than 1% of what really exists. The Guardians have been hiding the rest from younger species until they are ready." Tony was staring at the star maps appearing on the walls. There are inhabited systems right next to Earth that we never knew about. Some of these civilizations are millions of years old. Why hide them from us? Jake asked. Amy listened to Keeper's answer. Because the galaxy has enemies. Things that come from outside and destroy everything. The Guardians call them devourers. They eat stars and planets, and everything alive. The images on the walls changed to show something terrible. Dark shapes moving through space, leaving nothing behind them. Entire solar systems disappearing into blackness. The last attack was stopped by the predecessors. Amy continued translating. But it cost them everything. They became the Guardians. To watch for the next attack. And the next attack is coming soon. Kate Murphy's voice came through their radios from the ship. Captain, you need to hear this. I am detecting massive ships moving in space far beyond our sensors. Hundreds of them. They are bigger than anything we have ever seen. Amy listened to Keeper again. Her voice was very quiet when she spoke. The Devourers will arrive in less than 50 Earth years. The Guardians are getting weak. They cannot stop them alone this time. Jake felt the weight of what he was hearing. What do you want from us? The Keeper moved very close to Amy. She listened for a long time before she spoke again. They want to give humanity a choice. 3 paths. But we have to choose carefully. The choice we make will decide the future of every living thing in the galaxy. Paul was looking at all the ancient technology around him. What are the 3 paths? Amy translated Keeper's words. Power, knowledge, or responsibility. We can have great weapons and technology to make humanity strong. We can learn the secrets of the ancient civilizations. Or we can take the Guardian's place and protect everyone. And if we choose wrong? Jake asked. Amy's voice was barely a whisper. If we choose wrong, everyone dies when the Devourers come. Everything in the galaxy ends. Jake looked at his team. They were all staring at him, waiting for him to say something. But how could anyone make a choice like this? How could 6 humans decide the fate of the entire galaxy? How long do we have to decide? Jake asked. Amy listened to Keeper's answer. The Guardians are failing. Every day they get weaker. We need to choose soon, or there will be no one left to pass the responsibility to. Jake knew that this moment would change everything for humanity. Whatever choice they made would echo through history forever. The walls around them changed again. Now they showed pictures of space that looked like nothing Jake Martinez had ever seen before. There were star systems with dozens of planets, all covered with cities that glowed like jewels. Ships that looked like they were made of crystal moved between the worlds. Amy Foster continued to listen to Keeper's thoughts. They are showing us the hidden part of the galaxy, she said. There are not thousands of intelligent species like the Federation believes. There are millions. Lisa Bell was trying to record everything with her scanner, but the images were changing. Too fast. Look at that, she pointed to one of the wall displays. Those beings do not even have physical bodies anymore. They are made of pure thought. Tony Garcia was studying what looked like star maps. If these charts are real, there are civilizations just a few days' travel from Earth. We could have met them years ago. The Keeper made the walls show different images. These showed species that looked very different from humans or any Federation races. Some looked like living trees that could think. Others were made of what looked like living metal. There were beings made of gas that floated through space without ships. How old are these civilizations? Jake asked. Amy listened to Keeper's answer. Some have been here since before our sun was born. The oldest ones have been alive for hundreds of millions of years. They have technology that can create new stars or move entire planets. Paul Davis was staring at images of machines that seemed to build themselves. Captain, the engineering principles they are showing. We do not even have words for some of these concepts. This technology could solve every problem humanity has ever had. Why have they stayed hidden? Jake asked. Why not help younger species like us? The images on the walls changed to show something darker. They saw young civilizations being given advanced technology. At first, the young species were happy and grateful, but then they became lazy and stopped learning. They stopped exploring and stopped growing. Eventually, they just sat on their worlds using the old technology until they forgot how it worked. Keeper says that giving too much help too quickly destroys a species, Amy translated. Young civilizations need to struggle and learn on their own. If they get everything for free, they never develop wisdom. Dan Phillips was recording all the conversations. But some species must have earned the right to know about the hidden galaxy. Amy asked Keeper and listened to the response. Yes, but very few. In the last 1,000,000 years, only 12 species have passed all the tests. Most of them chose to join the hidden civilizations and live in peace. What happened to the others? Jake asked. The walls showed images that made everyone feel sad. They saw the ruins of great cities and empty worlds where life had once thrived. Ships floating dead in space with no one left to pilot them. They were destroyed by the Devourers, Amy said quietly. The species that failed the tests were not ready when the attacks came. They had power but no wisdom, technology but no unity. Kate Murphy's voice came through their radios again. Captain, I am detecting more movement in deep space. Whatever is coming this way, it is getting closer. Keeper showed them new images on the walls. These pictures made Jake feel cold inside. They showed creatures that looked like living darkness, moving between the stars. Wherever they went, light disappeared. Stars went out. Planets became cold and dead. The Devourers do not come from our galaxy, Amy translated. They live in the empty space between galaxies. Every few million years, they cross the void and attack. They feed on life and energy and light. Lisa was studying the images carefully. They consume entire star systems. How is that even possible? Amy listened to Keeper's explanation. They are not made of normal matter. They exist in dark energy, a force that pushes the universe apart. When they enter our reality, they upset the balance of everything. The walls showed the last great war against the Devourers. Their predecessors had built fleets of ships bigger than moons. They had weapons that could destroy black holes. The war had lasted for thousands of years and covered the entire galaxy. The predecessors won, Amy continued, but the cost was terrible. Billions of civilizations were destroyed. Entire regions of the galaxy became empty. The survivors decided that someone needed to watch and guard against the next attack. Paul was looking at images of the ancient war machines. The weapons they used, they could crack planets in half. But even with all that power, they barely won. How do you fight something made of dark energy? Tony asked. The images changed to show the answer. The predecessors had not just built better weapons. They had changed themselves. They gave up their physical bodies to become beings of pure energy. Only by becoming like their enemies could they hope to fight them. That is why the Guardians look the way they do, Amy explained. They sacrificed their original forms to gain the power needed to protect the galaxy. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. And now they want us to make the same choice. The walls showed more recent images. The Guardian stations that protected the galaxy were failing. The energy beings that had once been the predecessors were fading away. Their long watch was coming to an end. How many Guardians are left? Jake asked. Amy was quiet for a long moment. As she listened, Keeper says there are less than 1,000 left in the entire galaxy. When the predecessors first became Guardians, there were millions of them. What happened to the others? Lisa asked. They used up their energy, fighting smaller devourer attacks over the millions of years. Each time they stopped an invasion, some of them faded away forever. The images on the walls became more urgent. They showed sensor readings from the edge of the galaxy. Dark shapes were moving in the void between galaxies, heading toward their reality. "The next attack will be the biggest one ever," Amy translated. "The Devourers have been gathering in the void for millions of years. They learned from their last defeat. This time, they are bringing enough force to consume the entire galaxy." Jake looked around at his team. They all looked scared and overwhelmed. "What makes them think humanity can help? We are just one small species that barely knows how to travel between stars." Keeper moved closer to Amy. She listened for a long time before speaking. "He says that power and technology are not the most important things. The predecessors had both, and they almost lost. What matters is something else." "What?" Jake asked. "The will to sacrifice for others. The wisdom to work together. The courage to face something bigger than yourself." Amy paused and listened more. "Keeper says that in all their observations of younger species, humanity has shown these qualities more than any other race." Paul shook his head. "We fight wars against each other all the time. How can we be ready to protect the galaxy?" Amy translated Keeper's response. "Because even when you fight, you eventually make peace. Even when you disagree, you find ways to work together when something threatens everyone. You are the only species they have observed that regularly risks everything to save strangers." The walls showed images of human history. Humans running into burning buildings to save people they did not know. Doctors traveling to dangerous places to help the sick. Soldiers sacrificing themselves to protect civilians. Scientists sharing discoveries that could have made them rich. "This is why you were expected," Amy said. "This is why the test was created. The galaxy needs protectors who care more about others than themselves." Jake realized that the weight of the decision was even heavier than he had thought. They were not just choosing for humanity. They were choosing for every living thing in the galaxy. "What happens if we say no?" he asked. Amy listened to Keeper's answer, and her face went pale. "Then the Guardians will keep fighting until the last one fades away. And when the Devourers come, there will be no one left to stop them." Keeper moved to the center of the bright room. The other Guardian beings formed a circle around him. Amy Foster felt their thoughts pressing against her mind like waves of light. "They are going to show us the three choices," Amy said to Captain Jake Martinez. "They want us to understand exactly what each path means." The walls around them went dark for a moment. Then they lit up with new images that seemed to reach out and touch the humans. Jake felt like he was standing inside the pictures, instead of just watching them. The first choice appeared on the walls. It showed human ships flying through space, faster than light itself. The ships were beautiful and powerful, made of metals that shined like stars. Human colonies spread across thousands of worlds. Cities that floated in the clouds of gas giant planets. Farms that grew food in the rings of distant suns. "This is the path of power," Amy translated as Keeper spoke to her mind. "We would give you technology beyond your dreams. Weapons that could destroy a moon with one shot. Shields that could protect entire planets. The ability to travel across the galaxy in days instead of years." Paul Davis stared at the images with his mouth open. "Look at those engines, Captain. They are using the energy of black holes to power their ships. We could build a fleet that would make the Federation look like children with toy boats." The images changed to show humans working with the technology. At first, they were excited and happy. They built amazing things and solved problems that had troubled them for centuries. Disease disappeared. Hunger ended. Wars became impossible because everyone had everything they needed. But then the images showed what happened later. The humans stopped exploring. They stopped asking questions. They became comfortable and lazy. When new challenges appeared, they could not solve them because they had forgotten how to think for themselves. 17 other species chose this path, Amy said quietly. Keeper says they all became great for a short time. Then they became weak. When the Devourers attacked their regions of space, the advanced technology was not enough. They had power, but they had lost their spirit. Lisa Bell was studying her scanner readings. The technology is incredible, but look at this data. The species that took this path stopped advancing after a few thousand years. They just used the same Guardian technology over and over. Jake nodded. What about the second choice? The walls changed again. Now they showed humans traveling to the hidden parts of the galaxy. They met with civilizations millions of years old. They learned sciences that seemed like magic. They discovered the secrets of time and space and the forces that held the universe together. This is the path of knowledge, Amy translated. You would become students of the greatest teachers in the galaxy. You would learn how to speak with stars and how to heal wounds in reality itself. Human scholars would preserve the wisdom of ages and share it with younger species. Tony Garcia was looking at star charts that showed the hidden galaxy in detail. We could learn from civilizations that were old when Earth was still forming. Think of what we could discover. The images showed humans becoming teachers and guides. They helped other young species avoid mistakes. They preserved libraries of knowledge that contained the learning of millions of years. They became respected throughout the galaxy as wise counselors. But the images also showed the problems with this path. The humans who chose knowledge became focused only on learning and teaching. They gained great wisdom, but little power. When dangerous times came, they could give advice, but they could not fight. 6 species chose this path over the last 1,000,000 years, Amy said. They became the greatest scholars and teachers the galaxy has ever known. But when the Devourers attacked, they could only watch and record what happened. They had wisdom, but no strength. Dan Phillips was recording everything. They became living libraries. That is valuable, but it would not help much against an enemy that wants to destroy everything. Jake felt the weight of the decision growing heavier. And the third choice? The walls showed the most difficult images yet. They saw humans changing, becoming something more than human, but also less than human. Their bodies became energy and light. They gained power over space and time. They could travel instantly across the galaxy and fight enemies made of dark energy. This is the path of responsibility, Amy said. You would become the new guardians. You would gain both power and knowledge, but you would give up your humanity to protect all life in the galaxy. The images showed humans as energy beings, standing watch over thousands of worlds. They stopped invasions before they could begin. They maintained the barriers that protected young civilizations. They fought battles in dimensions that normal beings could not even see, but the cost was terrible. The humans who became guardians could never go home. They could never touch another person or feel the warmth of sunlight on their skin. They existed only to serve and protect, giving up everything that made them human. This is what the predecessors chose, Amy continued. They saved the galaxy, but lost themselves. The guardians who remain have been alone for millions of years, watching over everyone, but belonging to no one. Kate Murphy's voice came through their radios from the ship. Captain, we need to make a decision soon. I am detecting more ships approaching our position. Some of them are very large. Jake looked at his team. Each person was thinking about the 3 choices. Paul was still staring at the images of advanced technology. Lisa was studying the data about the knowledge path. Tony was looking at the star charts that showed the hidden galaxy. We cannot make this choice for all of humanity, Jake said finally. This affects our entire species. We need to contact Earth and let everyone decide together. Amy listened to Keeper's response. He says there is not enough time for that. The barriers protecting the galaxy are failing faster now. Every day they wait, more Guardian stations go dark. If they wait for Earth to decide, there might be no Guardians left to pass on their power. But how can 6 people choose the future of humanity? Lisa asked. Amy translated Keeper's words. He says that sometimes small groups must make big decisions. That is how evolution works. A few individuals face a new challenge, and their choices shape the future of their species. Paul was thinking about the technology they had seen. Captain, any one of these paths would advance humanity by thousands of years. Even the wrong choice might be better than no choice. But the wrong choice could also doom us, Tony pointed out. And not just us. Every living thing in the galaxy. Jake walked to the center of the room. The Guardians watched him with their energy forms. He could feel their ancient wisdom and their terrible loneliness. They had carried the burden of protecting the galaxy for millions of years. Now they wanted to pass that burden to humanity. There has to be another way, Jake said out loud. These 3 choices all have problems. The power path makes you weak. The knowledge path leaves you helpless. The responsibility path takes away your humanity. Amy listened to Keeper's thoughts. He says these are the only paths that have ever been offered. Every species must choose one of the 3. Then maybe that is the problem, Jake said. Maybe we are thinking about this wrong. Lisa looked up from her scanner. What do you mean? Captain? Jake turned to face his team. What if we do not choose just one path? What if we choose all 3? The Guardian beings pulsed with brighter light. Amy felt their surprise in her mind. Keeper says no species has ever suggested that before. Because other species probably think alike, Jake said, but humans are different. We have always been diverse. We have never agreed on anything as a whole species. Paul began to understand what Jake was thinking. You mean some humans could take the power path, others could choose knowledge, and others could become guardians? Exactly, Jake said. Humanity does not have to be just one thing. We could be all 3 things at the same time. The Guardians were very quiet. Their light forms moved closer together, as if they were talking among themselves. Amy waited to hear their response. Finally, Keeper spoke to her mind again. Amy's eyes went wide as she heard his words. What did he say? Jake asked. Amy looked around at her teammates. He said that in 10 million years of testing species, no one has ever thought of that solution. He wants to know how we would make it work. Jake Martinez stood in the center of the Guardian chamber. The ancient beings of light waited for his answer. He could feel the weight of the entire galaxy resting on his words. Humanity has always been different from other species, Jake began. We do not think as one mind or follow one leader. We argue and fight and disagree about everything. But that is also our strength. Amy Foster listened to Keeper's thoughts and translated. He wants to know how division could be strength against an enemy like the Devourers. Because when we face a big problem, we try many solutions at the same time, Jake explained. Some humans would want to fight with weapons. Others would want to learn and study. Still others would want to sacrifice themselves to protect everyone else. Instead of choosing just one way, we could do all 3. Lisa Bell looked up from her scanner. It could work, Captain. If we split humanity into different groups, each group could specialize in what they do best. Paul Davis was thinking about the engineering challenges. We could have some humans working with Guardian technology to build better defenses. Others could study with the ancient civilizations to learn new strategies. And some could become energy beings to fight the Devourers. Directly, Tony Garcia was studying the star maps on the walls. The different human groups could stay in contact with each other. They could share information and coordinate their efforts. The guardian beings pulsed with different colors of light. Amy felt their thoughts racing through her mind. Keeper says they are discussing this among themselves. They have never considered allowing a species to split the responsibility. Dan Phillips spoke up from where he was recording everything. What if it does not work? What if the different human groups start fighting each other instead of working together? Jake had thought about this too. That is a risk. But humans have learned to work together when we face threats that could destroy us all. World wars taught use that we are stronger united than divided. Kate Murphy's voice came through their radios again. Captain, those ships I detected are getting closer, and I am picking up transmissions in languages I do not recognize. Amy listened to more Guardian thoughts. Keeper says other species are arriving. Word has spread through the hidden galaxy that humans have reached the edge. Everyone wants to see what we will choose. The walls around them became transparent again. Outside in space, they could see ships unlike anything in Federation records. Some looked like living creatures swimming through the void. Others were geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. A few seemed to be made of pure crystal that caught and reflected starlight. How many species are out there? Jake asked. Amy translated Keeper's response. Hundreds. Representatives from all the major civilizations in the hidden galaxy. They all want to know if humanity will become the new Guardians. Why do they care so much? Lisa asked. Because if we fail, they all die, Amy said quietly. The Guardians are the only thing standing between the galaxy and the Devourers. If there are no new Guardians when the attack comes, everyone will be destroyed. The pressure of the decision was overwhelming. Jake looked at his small team and realized they were about to decide the fate of billions of civilizations. I need to know more about how this would work, Jake said. If humanity splits into 3 groups, how would we organize it? The walls showed new images as Keeper explained through Amy. One group would return to Federation space with Guardian technology. They would build defenses and prepare the younger civilizations for war. Another group would travel to the ancient worlds to learn from the oldest species. The third group would undergo the transformation to become energy beings. But there is more, Amy continued. Keeper says they have a new idea because of our suggestion. Instead of permanent choices, humans could rotate between the roles. Paul leaned forward. What does that mean? Amy listened carefully before responding. Humans who become Guardians would serve for a set period of time, maybe 1,000 years. Then they could return to physical form, and other humans would take their place. That way, the Guardians would always stay connected to humanity. This was something completely new. Jake felt excitement building inside him. So we would not lose our humanity forever. We would just take turns protecting the galaxy. The Guardian beings grew brighter as they discussed this idea. Amy could feel their amazement through her mind. Keeper says no species has ever thought of rotation before. The predecessors became Guardians permanently and slowly forgot what it was like to be mortal. But if humans take turns, they would remember why they are fighting. Lisa was running calculations on her computer. If we rotate Guardians every 1,000 years, and if humanity grows large enough, no individual would have to serve more than once or twice in their extended lifetime. Extended lifetime? Tony asked. Amy translated more of Keeper's thoughts. The transformation gives you a much longer life. Guardians can live for millions of years if they want to. But with rotation, humans could choose to return to normal aging after their service. Kate's voice came through the radio again. Captain, I am getting messages from Earth. They want to know our status. What should I tell them? Jake realized that Earth was about to receive news that would change everything. Tell them we are safe and that we have made the most important discovery in human history. Tell them to prepare for visitors. The walls showed one more set of images. They depicted Earth's solar system, but it looked different. There were new structures orbiting the planets, space stations larger than moons, ring worlds that could house billions of people. Earth itself looked bigger, with new continents floating in the sky. If humanity accepts this responsibility, your home system will become the new center of galactic defense. Amy translated, Earth will be expanded and protected. Your species will have access to technology and knowledge beyond imagination. And if we say no? Jake asked. The walls went dark for a moment. When they lit up again, they showed empty space where stars used to be. Dead worlds floating cold and lifeless. The galaxy consumed by darkness. Then everything ends, Amy said. Simply. Jake looked at each member of his team. Paul nodded slowly, thinking about all the technology they could gain. Lisa was studying her readings, considering the scientific knowledge they could learn. Tony was looking at the star charts, imagining humans spreading across the hidden galaxy. Dan was still recording, understanding that this conversation would be studied for generations. We accept, Jake said finally. Humanity will take all three paths. We will become the new guardians, but we will do it our way. We will rotate the responsibility so that no one loses their humanity forever. The guardian beings erupted in brilliant light. Amy felt their joy and relief flooding through her mind. Keeper says the test is complete. Humanity has passed not just by choosing correctly, but by finding a better solution than anyone before us. The walls around them showed celebrations, happening on ships throughout space. Hundreds of alien civilizations were cheering for humanity's choice. After 10 million years, the galaxy finally had hope again. What happens now? Jake asked. Amy smiled as she listened to Keeper's final message. Now we go home and tell our species that everything is about to change. The age of humanity hiding among the stars is over. The age of humanity protecting the stars is about to begin. Outside the Guardian station, ships from across the hidden galaxy began forming an escort formation around the USS Horizon. As Jake and his team prepared to return to their ship, they knew they were carrying the most important message in human history. The Devourers were coming, but for the first time in cosmic ages, the galaxy would be ready for them. And leading. The defense would be the newest guardians, the humans who had proven that the best solutions come not from choosing one path, but from having the wisdom to walk many paths at once. The test was over. The real work was about to begin.